If something in your relationship feels off, but you can't explain why. If you've spent years trying harder in the relationship and yet it just keeps hurting, this space is for you. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism podcast. Welcome back to part 2 of our Covert Narcissism Q&A. This is pulled directly from the Covert Narcissism Facebook group. If you listened to part 1, which was last Thursday, you know that these questions are not theoretical. They're real. They come from lived experience, and what I hear over and over is this: I just need space to ask my questions without being dismissed. Now, before we jump back in, I want to briefly share something that is connected to that. In 2026, I will be hosting small in-person retreats that are specifically for women healing from covert narcissistic abuse. And in many ways, they function like a giant live Q&A session, but slower, deeper, and more connected. It's space to ask questions that you cannot ask at home, space to untangle confusion in real time, space to sit with other women who understand the fog without having to over-explain it. These retreats are not about labeling anyone. They're about rebuilding clarity, self-trust, and nervous system safety. If that feels like something your body leans toward, you can find the details on my website. There's no urgency. It's just an invitation. The website is covertnarcissism.com, and then click on retreat. Okay, let's step back into your questions. So the first question I want to deal with today is, how do I start hearing and trusting my own voice again? I'm in the middle of a divorce after 20 plus years, and I still hear his voice in my head telling me that I'm wrong, incapable, fundamentally flawed, even though I now live in my own home. So first, I want to say, what you are describing is incredibly common after long-term covert narcissistic abuse, especially after decades together. And here's something really important. That voice in your head is not your intuition, it's conditioning. It's like emotional spam mail that somehow keeps slipping past the filter. And the fact that it's loud right now does not mean you're broken. It means your nervous system is recalibrating after years of being overridden. You spent 20 plus years being told, subtly or overtly, that your perceptions were flawed. Of course, that echo does not vanish overnight. It takes time, but more than that, it takes effort. You moved out, yes, but your nervous system hasn't fully moved out yet. So here's a few grounding tools that actually might help. Number 1 is name the voice accurately. Instead of arguing with it or convincing it that it's wrong, just simply label it. That's his voice, not mine. You might even say to yourself, oh, look, there he is again. You might even say, sir, this is not your residence anymore. The goal is separation. The goal is not to argue with it, it's to separate it from who you are. You're not trying to win an argument. You're identifying it as an intruder, not an authority. And just like an intruder in your home, you're not going to stand there and argue with them. You are going to kick them out. You don't have to immediately replace it with glowing affirmations like, I am a radiant goddess of certainty. That might feel fake right now. Instead, you can replace it with something neutral or practical, maybe a task, an activity. I even did something like Duolingo. Every time his thoughts got into my head, I would take it as my reminder to go practice my Spanish with Duolingo. You might do the laundry or take a walk, anything that shifts you from rumination into action. Because here's something to know. That voice loses its power when it's treated as a background noise, as an intruder, instead of as, divine instruction or something we need to listen to and pay attention to. You're not trying to silence it by force. You're demoting it. It went from CEO to that coworker who still offers opinions even though they were let go 6 months ago. The fact that you are recognizing this voice and think, wait, is that even true? That's your real voice waking up. That's the curiosity that's now looking at it going, what's true here? Your voice may not be loud yet, but it's there and it's stronger than you know. Number two is use external reality before trusting your internal reality. Right now, self trust may feel very shaky, and that's okay. When you've been told for years that your memory is wrong, your reactions are too much, your needs are unreasonable, of course your internal compass feels wobbly. It's been spun in circles for over 2 decades. So instead of forcing yourself to suddenly trust your gut, borrow something that's a little steadier. Ask yourself, what do I know to be true based on facts? What have I accomplished? What have I handled? Not vibes, not feelings, facts. You navigated a 20+ year relationship. You survived it. You even made the decision to leave and you secured your own home. That is not the resume of someone fundamentally incapable. Think of this as using a railing while your balance comes back. You're not weak for holding the railing, you're rebuilding equilibrium. External reality becomes a bridge back to your internal voice without demanding instant confidence. And number three is to practice micro trust, not big decisions. This is where people get tripped up. They think, I need to trust myself about huge life choices immediately. No, I'm going to say let's start small. Trust yourself about what you want for dinner and maybe when you're going to eat. Trust yourself about going to bed when you're tired. Trust yourself to end a conversation when your body says, hey, I need to not be here. Micro decisions. Self trust does not return because you had some breakthrough insight. It returns because you gather repeated evidence that you can choose and survive your choices and even thrive within them. It's like rebuilding a muscle that was ignored for 20 years. You don't walk into the gym and all of a sudden deadlift 300 pounds. You start with the little weights and gradually rebuild your strength. Listen, that voice that is getting louder inside of you, it has to get loud in order to keep you small. Well, now that you're not small anymore, you're starting to grow inside. It has to get loud because it's losing its power. You're doing the very real work of reclaiming a voice that had to go quiet to survive. We kind of shrivel ourselves in order to survive in these relationships. But the fact now that you are noticing the old programming and not automatically believing it, that's not failure, that's awakening. The next question is about our adult children. The question is, what is the best advice for how to regain relationship with two adult children in college who have been brainwashed by the covert narcissist? No matter what I do, say, or don't do or say, it's always judged and wrong. I give up. Please help me. My kids mean the world to me, but now it's all one-sided and I'm stuck. Oh, my friend, this is one of the most painful issues that there is. And I want to start by saying this. What you're describing is not a failure of love, effort, or character on your part. Sadly, it is a very common outcome when a covert narcissist controls the narrative with our children. So let's dive into a few truths first because we do need some solid footing here. Number one is you cannot out-explain a smear campaign. If everything you say or don't say is judged as wrong, the problem is not your behavior. It's the lens that they are viewing you through. When someone has been coached subtly or overtly to see you as the problem, logic, explanations, defenses, they just don't work. Number two is stop trying to prove your innocence. Now, this is a tough one. It's brutal, but it is essential. The more you defend yourself, explain yourself, or chase fairness, the more you accidentally confirm the false role that you have been assigned. Listen to what I'm saying. If you defend yourself, you already look like you have something to defend. So pull back. Pull back from defending yourself. This is not giving up. It's refusing to participate in this distortion of reality. You have nothing to defend, so don't defend. Number 3 is shift from being understood to being steady. Your kids may never truly understand you or what all happened. And that's hard, but it's okay. It isn't their role. It's not their place. It's not their job in life. Don't put them in that position. Instead, let your relationship with each kid be about you and that kid. Not rehashing the past, not diving into everything that happened. No, about who that child is right now. Be steady for them. Calm, predictable, non reactive. That's a tough one. Loving them without pressure. Short, consistent messages to your children land far better than emotional appeals. Try to embody this attitude towards your children. I love you, and I'm here when you want me. No qualifiers, no corrections, no obligations, no reminders of the past. Number 4, let time do what the words cannot do. Adult children often need to distance themselves from their parents. This is a normal process of growing up, whether they're in a toxic home or not. They need to distance themselves from the parents before they can see who they really are and before they can see you for who you are. That doesn't always happen quickly. Sometimes it takes years. Your steadiness becomes a quiet contrast to the manipulation that they will see over time. Let your character speak for itself. Your kids will see that difference. Number 5, grieve that loss without letting it harden you. You are allowed to grieve this. It is a real loss. But don't confuse grief with hopelessness because it's not the same thing. Many parents see reconnection later, especially when their children mature, maybe when they hit their own struggles, maybe when they become parents themselves. Sometimes they then start to see the patterns themselves. Your job is not to convince them now. Your job is to remain a safe, secure landing place if and when they're ready. Loving them does not mean accepting constant judgment from them, emotional punishment, or anything like that. Boundaries protect the relationship from being permanently destroyed. As I have talked about before, boundaries are for you. Do not engage in rehashing the past with your kids. Do not participate in the narrative of the other parent by defending yourself. These are the types of boundaries that are for you so you can be the parent you want to be. The next question is about saving money. This person is looking for ideas on how to gradually save money and hide it just in case I may need it. Now, first, I want to say saving money in a relationship, in a marriage, is not about deception. This is not about secret spy operations. This is about safety and autonomy. Financial control is one of the most common ways that people get trapped. So preparing quietly is often part of self-protection, not betrayal. Now, we're not staging a financial coup here. We're just building options. So let's talk about some low drama, gradual, boring, and remember, boring is good, boring ways to build a cushion without escalating the conflict. You might start with what I'm going to call invisible savings. Think small but steady. This is cash back from the grocery store or household shopping. Set aside a few dollars at a time. No one launches an investigation over $8. Maybe it's gift money that you were given, rebates, refunds, side income. Don't automatically funnel it back into shared spending. You don't need to. It's allowed to quietly become your cushion. Maybe gift cards to various locations. This is also valid and it's hard to argue with. I just grabbed a Target gift card while I was there. Small, consistent amounts matter more than dramatic moves. This is a slow simmer, not a fireworks show. You can also do things like bulk up on the non-perishables like shampoo, toothpaste, or paper products, so that then when you do get the cash back from the grocery store, the overall bill doesn't really change. Another step you can take is open up a separate bank account. Yes, you are allowed to do that. Opt for online statements only. Paper trails are not what you need, okay? You don't need them sitting in a kitchen trash can. Use a neutral mailing address if you need to, like a P.O. box or a trusted friend. This isn't about secrecy forever, it's about options. And options help you to regulate your nervous system. Another step is to reduce expenses quietly. Sometimes saving doesn't look like saving, it looks like canceling subscriptions that you personally pay for, switching to cheaper brands and maybe keeping the difference, buying secondhand without announcing it, but again, keeping the difference and putting it into your separate bank account. These are quiet, simple moves that can stay off the radar. Another step is don't turn this preparation into a debate. If you feel the urge to start explaining, justifying, or defending what you're doing, that's usually your cue to slow down, not to speak up. Preparation works best when it's boring and uneventful. If it feels dramatic, scary, it might be a sign you're doing too much. Take a step back and do this in smaller bits. Now, one important caution here: avoid anything that could violate court orders, breach legal agreements, or put you at risk later in a divorce or separation. You might take a quiet consultation with a family law attorney or a financial advisor. This can help you plan safely without tipping your hand. Preparation is not about betrayal, it's how people regain choice in their life. You're not wrong for thinking ahead. You're not sneaky for wanting options. Building a safety net does not even mean you plan to use it. Calm preparation today prevents desperate decisions tomorrow. Now, let's dive into couples therapy. This person asked, why does couples therapy make things worse? I know many people have experienced this, okay, myself included. Couples therapy was a disaster. So let's talk about it. Couples therapy assumes shared accountability, good faith, mutual goals. It assumes that both of you are walking in thinking, we want to fix this. But in covert narcissistic dynamics, that assumption can fall apart very quickly. Think of couples therapy like a group project back from, your school days. So we've all had that group project in school. You know, the one where you're the one doing all the research. You're outlining the paper, you're checking the sources, you're staying up late, formatting citations, and making sure that it's all in the right order. Meanwhile, what's your group partner doing? They're missing meetings, forgetting to respond to messages, showing up with nothing prepared, contributing vague ideas at the last minute. But then presentation day arrives, and suddenly they show up polished. Their hair is done, their outfit pressed, they've got big energy and a confident voice. They stand up in front of class and deliver their portion, which, by the way, you did most of the preparation for, but they deliver it like they've been working tirelessly for weeks. They reference the project like it was a shared labor of love. They even thank you for keeping everyone organized. From the outside, they look invested, insightful, collaborative, and the teacher thinks, what a solid team effort. They might even give you both the same grade. I hated those projects where both people got the same grade for the project when I was the one doing all the work. That's what couples therapy can feel like in a covert narcissistic dynamic. You're showing up ready to self reflect. You're softening your tone, working on your reactions. You're acknowledging your faults. You're asking, what can I do differently? Well, they show up articulate, thoughtful sounding, maybe even wounded a little bit. They say things like, I know I can be difficult, or I just feel like nothing I ever do is enough. It sounds humble enough. It sounds accountable. It even sounds collaborative. But they're not actually picking up the work. They're just managing the presentation. Just like the teacher in school, the therapist might not pick up on reality and actually compliment them for a job well done. If the therapist isn't specifically trained in abuse dynamics and specifically covert abuse dynamics, the focus often shifts to things like communication styles. You both need to validate each other. You need to say we more than I. You both need to compromise. You both need to contribute to the cycle. And you're sitting there thinking, I've been carrying the cycle. Sessions can unintentionally validate the narrative that the problem is mutual when the imbalance is very present and real. One person is over functioning, the other person is performing. So it's not that therapy is bad, it's that relational therapy amplifies imbalance when one person is there to repair the relationship, but the other is there to control their image and the narrative. Just like that old group project, you leave feeling like you did the work and somehow still got graded as equally responsible for the mess. That doesn't mean therapy failed, and it doesn't mean that you failed therapy. It may mean that the format wasn't built for the dynamic that you're living. This person goes on to ask, why don't they answer questions when asked? Even simple questions they will not answer directly. Well, have you ever asked a completely reasonable, straightforward question like, did you call the insurance company? And somehow 14 minutes later, you're discussing your tone, your timing, your childhood, and whether you're always this intense? That's not an accident. Avoiding answers serves a purpose for the covert narcissist. It allows them to keep you off balance. If they don't give you what you're asking for, you stay slightly tilted, slightly unsure. It allows them to redirect the conversation. Suddenly you're defending yourself instead of getting the information that you're seeking. The narrative is successfully controlled then by the covert narcissist. It allows them to exhaust you until you drop it. After the third loop through this conversation about, all the different things you've ever done wrong in your childhood and your reactions, you finally go, you know what? Never mind. I'll just handle it. Well, mission accomplished. They're off the hook and you're doing all the work. It also allows them to avoid being pinned to anything measurable. No clear answer means no accountability later. There's no follow-up. If they don't give you the answer of, yeah, I need to call them, maybe I'll call them today, you can't follow up later and pin them to, hey, you said you'd call them. They don't give clear answers because they don't want to be held accountable. So when you do ask questions, you'll start to notice patterns. Maybe sometimes they ignore you completely, like you just spoke into a void. And now you sit there wondering, did they hear me? Should I repeat myself? Are they mad at me? And if you dare repeat yourself, suddenly you're accused of nagging or attacking or interrogating. And you want to scream, would you just answer the question? Sometimes they'll answer around the question. It's fascinating how someone can have a full TED Talk type response to a question you didn't ask, but suddenly lose their ability to speak when you ask, did you pay the bill? Sometimes they'll turn it back on you. Why are you so obsessed with this? Why does everything have to be a problem? It isn't a problem, just answer the question. Sometimes they'll even claim that they don't understand what you're asking, even if the question was, did you take the trash out? Now, let's be honest here. If someone can debate politics, explain sports statistics, and remember what their coworker said 3 weeks ago, they can understand your question. If someone wanted to answer, they would. Silence is communication. Deflection is communication. Confusion is communication. Their lack of an answer is, in fact, an answer. And when you stop trying to squeeze clarity out of someone who benefits from the fog, you regain your footing very quickly. Now, the next question is about the stages of healing. And this is a long question, so I'm going to read this question. This person says, I wonder if anyone has outlined a set of typical stages that a person goes through when they are discovering the presence of narcissism in their relationships, all the way through to leaving or deciding to stay. For me, so far, I would say that the stages were, number 1, research and sudden horrified insight. Number 2, review my life with him with fresh insight and outrage. Number 3, unleashed anger. Number 4, pulling back and trying to learn how to be more constructive, such as gray rocking, because I see my anger is affecting my kids. Number 5, strategize the logistics of how to leave while also struggling with the fact that I really do have an impulse to believe that fantasy still. struggling with myself to keep facing reality and finding a better future? Now, this is a great question. Many clinicians, advocates, and survivors have noticed very similar stages, even if they're named a little differently. What you have outlined here is actually remarkably accurate. And the struggle you're describing, especially the pull of the fantasy alongside the clear insight, is one of the most universal and distressing parts of this journey. Let's go through these common stages of awareness and decision making in covert narcissistic relationships. You named number one as awakening and horrified insight. This is the, oh my God, this explains everything phase. It's when the words jump off the page and slap you right in the face. The research clicks, the patterns snap into focus, and there's often shock, grief, and complete disbelief all at once. Relief and terror coexist in this phase. Number two is you do start replaying your entire history. You now re examine everything you've been through with this person through a new lens. Past arguments, confusion, self doubt, all of it suddenly makes sense. Outrage is extremely common here, not just at them, but at how long you didn't see this, and now you're blaming yourself. So that's step number three, which is anger. That is a very healthy and a very normal stage. This is a normal response to bad behavior, even though it can feel quite volatile. Anger is motivating. Anger is your system telling you that this is not okay, and it pushes you to do something about it. It often scares survivors because it contrasts so sharply with who they've believed that they are and who they've had to be in this environment. Number four is now regulation and containment. Many people start to pull back from that anger now, not because the anger was wrong, but because they start to see its impact. Impact on the kids, impact on their personal health, impact on their job, even impact on their safety. Tools such as gray rocking are not about fixing the relationship. They're about reducing harm while you figure out what to do. They're about keeping the environment peaceful while you decide whether you're leaving or staying, or while you start taking the steps to prepare for leaving. Number five is when cognitive dissonance really hits. This is where logic and longing collide. You're planning, researching logistics, building options, while still feeling that pull of desire, hope, fantasy. Maybe this time they'll actually get it. Maybe this time they mean the I'm sorry. Maybe now they'll change. This is not weakness. It's the recognition of what your relationship could have been placed alongside the reality of what it is. This is a very painful part of the process. It's radical acceptance that is knocking at your door, trying to slap you in the face, but we don't really want it to because it's not what we want. We don't want to be married to a covert narcissist. We want a healthy relationship. Step six is that radical acceptance. This is not resignation. It's not even forgiveness. It's just the moment that you stop arguing with your own reality. You now accept that they may never change in meaningful ways, that the good moments can coexist with real harm, and that you don't need certainty to make a grounded decision. Whether you leave or stay, your expectations shift from hope to reality. You stop asking, how do I make this different? And you start asking, what is actually possible here? The fantasy that you've been living in does not magically vanish just because you now see the truth. These stages are not linear. People move back and forth between them all over the place, especially between insight and then anger and then acceptance and then back to anger and on and on. It doesn't mean you're stuck. It means your nervous system is catching up to what your mind is starting to understand. A strong takeaway here is healing does not mean that the fantasy disappears first. It means you stop letting the fantasy run the show. That fantasy is going to stick around for a while. What you're describing is not confusion. It's the very real process of reclaiming clarity after long-term distortion. If there's one thing that I hope you take from today's Q&A, it's this. It is okay to ask questions. It is okay to not have all the answers yet. So many of you are quietly wondering the same things as each other, thinking you're alone in the confusion, the doubt, and the back and forth. But in reality, these questions are shared by countless others who are walking this same path. Every question asked matters. What you're brave enough to name out loud is often exactly what someone else needs to hear but hasn't found the words for yet. Curiosity is not weakness, it's awareness. Asking questions is often the very first act of self trust after a long time of doubting yourself. You don't need to rush clarity. You don't need to resolve everything at once. Simply allowing yourself to ask honest questions is a part of how healing begins. If you're listening and thinking, yes, but I have questions that feel very specific to my situation, I need help sorting them out. That's exactly what personalized coaching is for. These dynamics are layered and deeply personal. Sometimes you need more than a podcast episode. You need space to untangle your story in real time with someone who understands the patterns and won't dismiss what you're going through. If you're ready for that level of support, you can find information about my individual coaching on my website, covertnarcissism.com. You don't have to navigate this alone. Your story matters, and you deserve to be heard without judgment. Until next time, I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. If there were ever an audience that I wish did not have to exist, it would be this one, because of what it means you've lived through. I'm truly sorry that you understand this so deeply, and I'm really glad that you're here. May this be a place of safety, clarity, and peace. You are not alone anymore, and you don't have to figure this out by yourself. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. And if you'd like to learn more about the support, resources, or coaching that is available for you, you can visit covertnarcissism.com. While I hate it for everyone who understands what I am talking about, I'm really glad that you're here, and I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those that she has worked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support an allegation or support a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and the information provided. Thank you.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.